The Kennedy family. To be a researcher and learn that the Kennedy family is considered one of the top 13 Illuminati families is akin to being tasked with finding a needle in a haystack. It is estimated that there are approximately 200,000 individuals with the surname Kennedy in the United States. In 1890, Kennedy ranked as the 17th most common surname in Ireland, and recent records place it as the 16th most common today. Fortunately, there is information that helps identify at least a segment of the so-called satanic Kennedys from the broader Kennedy lineage. Some of these distinctions will be detailed later in this article. Kennedy ties to other elite families. The intricate connections between various Illuminati families often confront researchers with a complex and lengthy unraveling process, akin to untangling a series of stubborn knots. The Kennedy family has intermarried with numerous notable families, including the Anketels, Baileys, Booths, Buckleys, Collins, Hatfields, Humphreys, Freemans, James, Phelps, Reagans, Russells, and Smiths. Among the Kennedys of particular interest are those linked to the Fitzpatricks, a powerful Irish family whose coat of arms features 3 fleurs-de-lis, a dragon, and a lion. The Fitzpatricks may trace their origins to France and could potentially be connected to the Sang Royal, or royal bloodline, often associated with the Holy Grail in older manuscripts. Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy Onassis, who married John F. Kennedy, was connected to the Auchincloss family through her sister's marriage. The Auchinclosses are a Scottish Illuminati bloodline. As one historian noted, one can fairly hear the woof and tweet of history whistle through the names of the ramified Auchincloss tribe. Bunt, Grosvenor, Rockefeller, Saltonstall, Tiffany, Vanderbilt, and Winthrop, among others. For example, Hugh D. Auchincloss Sr. married Emma Brewster Jennings, the daughter of Oliver B. Jennings, a co-founder of Standard Oil alongside John D. Rockefeller. The Kennedy family's intermarriages with prominent names provide further connections. For instance, Burnett Schaeffer Kennedy married Phoebe Freeman in 1820. However, this raises questions. Were these individuals secretly connected to the occult? Andrew Kennedy, another notable family member, married Margaret Penny Hatfield, and their lineage is linked to the Hatfield, Bailey, Collins, and Mullins families. Researchers are left with an abundance of clues but limited time and resources to pursue these leads fully. Origins of the family and the relationship of the Kennedys. There are several versions of how the Kennedy family originated. However, upon deeper examination, the Irish origins of the Kennedys become evident. They are descendants of Brian Boru, also known as Brian Kennedy, and his nephew, who later adopted the spelling Sinead. The name eventually became O'Kennedy. The family was originally part of a Dalcassian sept in the region near Killaloe, with the Killikennedy parish serving as a historical reminder of their roots. Over time, the O'Briens and McNamaras displaced the Kennedys into new territories, where they became the Lords of Ormond, a region now known as North Tipperary. Many Kennedys in Ireland today are still concentrated in this area. The family retained significant influence into the 16th century. The Kennedy family eventually split into 3 branches. 1. Don, brown. 2. Fionn, fair. 3. Rua, red. The Scottish Kennedys. Around 1600, a Scottish branch of the Kennedy family emerged. The origins of their surname are unclear, and it is possible that they were not initially of Irish descent. However, genealogical research indicates that, regardless of their origins, the aristocratic Kennedy families of Scotland and Ireland intermarried extensively, creating connections among them. As Gail Marie Kennedy notes in her book My Kennedy Ancestors, it is believed that all the foregoing Kennedy families are related either by virtue of being descendants of common ancestors or by intermarriage. I consulted Burke's General Armory to obtain a listing of the aristocratic Kennedys, and here is what I found. Kennedys of Ardmillan, County Ayr, Scotland. Kennedys of Auchtyfordell, County Lanark, 1752. Kennedys of Blairquan, County Ayr, Scotland. Kennedys of Clouburn, County Ayr, Scotland. Kennedys of Cultura, County Down, Northern Ireland. Kennedys of Dublin, Fun Ent, 1595, Ulster, Ireland. Kennedys of Girvanmains, County Ayr, Scotland. Kennedys of Hillfoot, Ireland. Kennedys of Kirkmichael, County Ayr, Scotland. Kennedys of Kirmucks, Aberdeen, Scotland. Kennedys of Londonderry, Northern Ireland. Kennedys of Tombrechin, County Tipperary, Ireland. Kennedys of Underwood, County Ayr, 1850, Scotland. Kennedys of Visit Dublin, 1607, Ireland. Johnstown Kennedy of County Dublin, Ireland. Kennedys of Bargany and Ardstenshire, County Ayr, Scotland. Kennedys of Kirkhill from the Bargany Group, 1678, Scotland. It is evident that the Kennedy family has been associated with numerous powerful aristocratic branches. One of the more influential modern Scottish aristocrats was Archibald Kennedy, the Marquess of Ailsa, 1872 to 1943. Often referred to by his title rather than his name, Archibald Kennedy was the 15th Earl of Cassilis. This branch of the Kennedy family married into Scottish royalty. For instance, Sir James Kennedy married Mary, a daughter of King Robert III, and their son, Sir Gilbert Kennedy, was granted the title of Lord Kennedy before 1458. Archibald Kennedy was a highly influential Freemason, holding several key positions in the Grand Lodge of Scotland. He served as the first Grand Principal from 1913 until his death in 1943. His Masonic journey began when he was initiated into Holyrood House Lodge, No. 44, in Edinburgh on November 17, 1896. Upon his death, his titles were inherited by his brother, Charles Kennedy. How are the various prominent Kennedys related? A recurring question in the examination of the elite families of the Illuminati and the New World Order is how one Kennedy is related to another. For example, how is David M. Kennedy, a Bilderberger, connected to William Jesse Kennedy III, a key figure in the Duke Illuminati family, president of Mutual Life Insurance Company, a Duke financial asset, director of RCA, trustee of Ford's Theater, and associated with the Pilgrim Society through the Conference Board of New York City? While the precise connections may be unclear, it can be confidently stated that the aristocratic Kennedy families, if traced back several centuries, are all interlinked through common ancestry or intermarriage. Beginning at the beginning. One of my first indications of the Kennedy family's connection to the Illuminati came from the conspiracy book, The Widow's Son, The Historical Illuminatus Chronicles, Vol. 2, by Robert Anton Wilson. Wilson and his co-author, Robert Shea, creators of the Illuminatus series, are not Christians. On the contrary, they are regular participants in events like the Starwood Festival in Central Ohio, which is known for attracting witches and pagans. Robert Anton Wilson has publicly described himself as a Gnostic and a devoted admirer of Aleister Crowley. I discovered The Widow's Son in a Satanic or New Age bookstore. In both the teaser chapter at the end of Volume 2 and in Volume 3 of the Historical Illuminatus Chronicles, Wilson emphasizes the significance of Brian Kennedy, regarded as the first Kennedy, and his bloodline's integration into key royal lineages. It is intriguing that someone as informed as Wilson, who actively engages in rituals with Gnostics and witches, would assert that the Kennedy family holds an important place within the Illuminati's bloodlines. Few are aware, for instance, that Tip O'Neill, a former Speaker of the House of Representatives, was a descendant of the Kennedy clan. Wilson's writings cater to New Agers and witches, not to Christians, yet they provide valuable insights into the Kennedy family's prominence. One gets the impression that Robert Anton Wilson's experience with the occult has given him a profound understanding of organizations like the Freemasons and the Illuminati. He writes his books as historical novels filled with an abundance of facts, yet his writing style leaves readers questioning whether he intends to be taken seriously. Is what he writes purely fiction, or is it history augmented with creative embellishments? I believe this ambiguity reflects how the occult operates. They reveal truths to their own, but in a way that ensures others dismiss them. Wilson alternates between presenting himself as a buffoon and a serious conspiracy researcher, often blending both personas within the same article or even on a single page. Upon verifying Wilson's claims, they usually hold true. For instance, his information about Brian Kennedy was astonishing. I promptly sought to confirm it through other sources, and it turned out Wilson was accurate regarding their genealogy and historical significance in Illuminati activities. The Illuminati and Matthew Kennedy. One of the main lodges for the Illuminati before 1784 was located in a vast chateau at Ermenonville, near Paris, France. This estate belonged to the Marquis of Girardin, who offered protection to Rousseau and later honored him with a tomb on the property. Saint-Germain presided over this illuminated lodge, where blood rituals were performed on an altar made from human bones. Interestingly, one of Saint-Germain's close associates who traveled from Ireland to Paris was Matthew Kennedy, 1652 to 1735. Kennedy was affiliated with Saint-Germain's court and authored a chronological, genealogical, and historical dissertation of the royal family of the Stuarts. In 1613, the Stuart family had married into the Sangral lineage, playing a pivotal role in the genealogies of the Prieur de Sion. Frederick of the Palatinate, after marrying Elizabeth Stuart, established an occult Rosicrucian state. Frederick was instrumental in instigating the 30 Years' War between Protestants and Catholics. The Stuarts subsequently spread the Scottish rite of Freemasonry across Europe. For a time, the Prieur de Sion supported the Stuarts but later abandoned them. Saint-Germain is venerated as a Christ-like figure by groups such as the I Am movement, the Church Universal Triumphant, and other New Age organizations. A portrait resembling Christ, but actually depicting Saint-Germain, is displayed in many homes of those involved with these movements. It is notable that an Irish Kennedy, enamored with the Stuart dynasty, became a member of Saint-Germain's court and a celebrated writer within his circle. John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Had John F. Kennedy not been assassinated, prompting scrutiny and widespread documentation of his life, the window into the Kennedy family's ties to the Illuminati might never have opened so widely. The assassination drew attention, and in subsequent years, the Illuminati reportedly permitted publishers to release exposés about JFK's private life, including his sexual escapades. This strategy aimed to tarnish his reputation and deflect criticism of his assassination. JFK's personal life was rife with scandal. Even as president, he maintained an active sexual lifestyle, hosting frequent nude swim parties at the White House pool, shielded from public knowledge by the secrecy of the elite. His promiscuity was well known among those in power. Illuminatus McGeorge Bundy warned JFK, while he was still a senator, that his openness with women might lead to public scandal. JFK's notorious lifestyle included open displays of sexual activity, such as a party at the Mayflower Hotel in Washington, D.C., where he and Senator Estes Kefauver engaged in public sexual acts, even swapping partners. Beyond his one-night stands orchestrated by aides, Secret Service agents, or friends like Frank Sinatra, JFK maintained longer-term relationships with several women, exposing a hidden satanic connection within the Kennedy family. 3 of JFK's long-term girlfriends, Marilyn Monroe, Jane Mansfield, and Zsa Zsa Gabor, were also linked to Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan. Jane Mansfield served as a high priestess in LaVey's church, and Marilyn Monroe participated in his satanic rituals before the Church of Satan was formally established. Both JFK and his brother Robert had affairs with Monroe and visited her shortly before her mysterious death. Zsa Zsa Gabor, long interested in the occult, further highlights this connection. California, fertile ground for Satanism, played a significant role in LaVey's rise. Early 20th century Haitian communities practicing voodoo, alongside witches and Satanists fleeing persecution in France, South America, and Cuba, found refuge in California. The state's acceptance of such practices, coupled with the influence of Hollywood, made it a stronghold for satanic activity. Anton LaVey, whose maternal grandmother hailed from Transylvania, was introduced to the occult through his family. An avid fan of horror films, LaVey studied Aleister Crowley and the OTO, which maintained lodges in California. In 1947, LaVey joined the Clyde Beatty Circus, where he honed his showmanship skills. Working in the circus's occult sideshows, LaVey discovered that people were eager to believe in occult frauds, paving the way for his eventual establishment of the Church of Satan. Anton LaVey discovered Marilyn Monroe, a Jewish girl, performing as a striptease artist in various clubs. Using his showmanship skills, LaVey helped refine her performance and leveraged his connections to launch her into stardom. LaVey had a unique ability to market Satanism to the public, carefully walking a fine line between promoting hardcore practices, such as human sacrifice, and presenting theatrics. While he attracted those drawn to evil, LaVey avoided direct association with heinous crimes like child molestation or murder. Although LaVey's involvement with Satanism began before the 1960s, it wasn't until 1966 that he officially founded the Church of Satan. Opinions among hardcore Satanists regarding LaVey vary. Some dismiss him as all show, while others view him as a role model and form covens in his honor. The Illuminati and Southern California. The Illuminati established its headquarters in Southern California during the 20th century, specifically in San Bernardino County. However, the Illuminati operates covertly, relying on collaborators to execute its plans. Membership in the Illuminati is strictly hereditary, and they maintain control over satanic cults at the higher levels, referred to as Stage 4 and Stage 5 of Satanism. Lower levels of Satanism serve as recruitment grounds, with members acting as the grunts of Satan's army. In the San Bernardino area, high priests in the lower stages, Stage 2 or Stage 3, hold titles like Master Counselor, Keeper of the Books, and Keeper of the Seal. During the late 1960s, Mike Warnke, a high priest and master counselor, expanded the membership of Stage 1 to 3 Satanists to 1,500 in the San Bernardino Riverside-Colton region. These members, however, were far below the ranks of the Illuminati hierarchy, which includes the Sisters of Light, 5-star generals, and Asmodeus, middle management figures overseeing public covens of Satanism. Anton LaVey attended occult conferences where both public Satanism, stages 1 to 3, and the secret Illuminati overseers were present. While LaVey's public persona distanced him from the darkest aspects of Satanism, he remained connected to its inner workings. His role was deliberately designed to present Satanism in a more palatable, public-facing image. Anton LaVey, ever the showman, used his skills to mentor Marilyn Monroe and introduced her to key connections that helped launch her acting career. Monroe later became romantically involved with John F. Kennedy. When JFK was nominated as the Democratic candidate for president, the Kennedys hosted a party at the convention. Attendees described the event as one where every delegate was provided with whatever entertainment they desired, including liquor and women sent to their rooms. JFK spent much of the convention and the following day with Marilyn Monroe. After delivering his acceptance speech, JFK and his entourage, including Peter Lawford, Frank Sinatra, and Sammy Davis Jr., celebrated with a skinny dipping party at Lawford's residence. Sammy Davis Jr., a close friend of Sinatra and JFK, eventually joined the Church of Satan after its establishment by LaVey. From 1955 to 1959, JFK maintained a suite on the 8th floor of Washington's Mayflower Hotel, which was reserved for his extramarital affairs. Jane Mansfield. In the 1960s, Jane Mansfield had a relationship with JFK. They met at various locations, including Beverly Hills, Malibu, and Palm Springs. JFK often relied on men known as beards, who would act as if the women accompanying him were their dates. One of these men, Dave Powers, not only procured women for JFK but also falsely portrayed the president's personal life in his memoirs. Some of JFK's other long-term romantic relationships included Lady Jean Campbell, the daughter of the Duke of Argyll; Flo Pritchett Smith, the wife of the American ambassador to Cuba; K. Hannon Auchincloss, with whom JFK maintained a close, albeit mysterious, relationship; Judith Campbell Exner, who was initially Frank Sinatra's girlfriend. Exner also worked for mafia figures Sam Giancana and John Roselli, who had connections to the CIA. Judith Exner served as a courier between the mafia and JFK during his presidency, as reported by People magazine in The Dark Side of Camelot. JFK also had direct contact with mafia leaders Meyer Lansky and Joe Fischetti, receiving financial support from them. This was unsurprising given that JFK's father, Joseph Kennedy, had collaborated with the mafia throughout his life. Organized crime and satanic groups have long used blackmail as a tool to manipulate individuals, yet there is little evidence to suggest JFK was ever blackmailed. Instead, substantial evidence points to his active collaboration with both the mafia and Satanists. The mafia's influence extended to rigging key counties during the election, such as in Chicago, which played a pivotal role in securing JFK's presidency. However, this topic ventures into a broader discussion that lies beyond the scope of this article. Judith Exner served as a courier between the mafia and JFK during his presidency, as reported by People magazine in The Dark Side of Camelot. JFK also had direct contact with mafia leaders Meyer Lansky and Joe Fischetti, receiving financial support from them. This was unsurprising given that JFK's father, Joseph Kennedy, had collaborated with the mafia throughout his life. Organized crime and satanic groups have long used blackmail as a tool to manipulate individuals, yet there is little evidence to suggest JFK was ever blackmailed. Instead, substantial evidence points to his active collaboration with both the mafia and Satanists. The mafia's influence extended to rigging key counties during the election, such as in Chicago, which played a pivotal role in securing JFK's presidency. However, this topic ventures into a broader discussion that lies beyond the scope of this article. A poem by Jackie. Something Jackie Kennedy wrote during her honeymoon seems particularly significant. After their wedding in September 1953, Jackie and Jack, John F. Kennedy, spent time as newlyweds at the villa of Mexico's president, Don Miguel Alemán. During their stay, Jackie wrote a poem about her new husband, which read, "He would find love, he would never find peace, for he must go seeking the golden fleece." This poetic excerpt raises questions about Jackie's insights into Jack's ambitions. One of the writing projects I've wanted to explore, and have since delegated to a trusted colleague, is an article on MJ-12, also known as the Wise Men or the Study Group. This secretive group reportedly holds significant influence in running the United States. While it may no longer operate as a formal organization, it is said to function through informal, unplanned meetings, with members coincidentally encountering one another. MJ-12 draws its membership from the Jason Society and the Jason Group, both named after the myth of Jason and the Golden Fleece. Jackie, who was closely acquainted with many powerful Illuminati figures, later married Aristotle Onassis, a high-ranking member of the Illuminati's Maria faction. Could her poem be hinting at Jack's desire to ascend the ranks of power, symbolized by the Golden Fleece, that is, the Jason Society and MJ-12? Joseph Kennedy and the Illuminati. Joseph Kennedy, the father of John F. Kennedy, has been linked to the Illuminati through various channels. Independent sources confirm his membership in the Pilgrim Society, a branch of the Illuminati, and his collaborations with both the Mafia and other key Illuminati figures. While this article focuses on other topics, Joseph Kennedy's activities are a testament to his significant influence and alignment with clandestine power structures. One story about Joseph Kennedy illustrates the duplicity often employed by politicians. During World War II, Joseph Kennedy served as the U.S. ambassador to Great Britain. This appointment underscored the Kennedy family's importance within elite circles, as Britain was a critical ally at the time. However, Kennedy's public persona as an isolationist contradicted his behind-the-scenes actions. At the U.S. Embassy in Britain, an American diplomat named Tyler Gatewood Kent worked in the code room. Kent, who already believed in a global conspiracy, discovered secret communications indicating that President Franklin D. Roosevelt was covertly involving the United States in World War II while misleading the public about his intentions. Kent smuggled 1,500 pages of classified documents intending to expose the conspiracy. Before Kent could reveal these documents, he was arrested. To enable the British to detain Kent, Ambassador Kennedy revoked his diplomatic immunity on May 20, 1940. By doing so, Kennedy ensured that Kent would face a harsh sentence in Britain rather than standing trial in the United States, where the truth about Roosevelt's covert actions might have outraged the American public. According to diplomatic protocol, Kent should have been tried in the U.S., as the documents he took were American embassy papers. Although no evidence presented at his trial indicated he was a spy, Joseph Kennedy fabricated a narrative claiming Kent was a Nazi operative. Kennedy even embarked on a speaking tour across the United States after his ambassadorship ended, promoting the story to bolster his image as an isolationist. In reality, Kennedy's actions directly supported Roosevelt's secret maneuvers, including preparations for the Pearl Harbor attack. By pretending to oppose the war, Kennedy helped deceive the American people, allowing Roosevelt to proceed with his plans unchallenged. This account exemplifies how politicians often manipulate public perception. Even today, many people look to public officials as potential saviors against systemic corruption, only to be misled into believing the system has defeated them fairly. The Illuminati ties of the Kennedy family. Thus far, I have only exposed a fraction of the Illuminati connections within the Kennedy family. As expected of any prominent Illuminati lineage, the Kennedys are entangled with drug trafficking, the monarch mind control program, euthanasia initiatives, the British monarchy, and organized crime networks, including various mafias. In this discussion, I aim to shed light on a few lesser-known aspects of the Kennedy family's ties to the drug trade, euthanasia programs, and the Knights of Malta. After World War I, Joseph Kennedy worked for Galen Stone, a partner at the prominent firm Hayden Stone & Company, which maintained connections to the Rothschilds. To bolster his social standing, Joseph Kennedy strategically married into the Fitzgerald family. This tactic, marrying into a respectable family for appearances, is a common practice among Illuminati members. Often these wives remain unaware of their husband's covert activities, serving as ideal cover for their operations. Joseph Kennedy's involvement in organized crime has been well documented, but a few connections are worth reiterating. He partnered with Joseph Lindsay, a prominent organized crime figure in New England and an associate of Meyer Lansky. Lindsay was even listed as the top contributor to one of Ted Kennedy's Senate campaigns. Another business associate was the Bronfman family, powerful Illuminati figures in Canada. The Bronfmans owned half of the Newark-based Reinfeld syndicate with which Kennedy collaborated. Joseph Kennedy also had ties to Winston Churchill, who granted him the British Alcoholic Distillers franchise for the American market. When Kennedy became the U.S. ambassador to Britain, the influence of the Illuminati was evident. The British royal family, at Kennedy's request, donned their full royal regalia to welcome the Kennedy family. In Britain, Kennedy connected with elite figures such as the Astors and the Sassoons. Sir John Wheeler Bennett, founder and head of the Royal Institute of International Affairs Research Division, reportedly wrote Kennedy's thesis, later published as Why England Slept. A particularly revealing episode of Kennedy's influence is the marriage of his daughter Kathleen to William Cavendish, Duke of Devonshire. Joseph Kennedy often boasted, "If Kathleen and her husband were alive, I'd be the father of the Duchess of Devonshire and the father-in-law of the head of all the Masons in the world." Joseph Kennedy was also a member of the British branch of the Knights of Malta, known as the Order of St. John. Intriguingly, Jackie Kennedy Onassis's sister Lee married Prince Stanislaus Radziwill. The Radziwill family played a significant role in establishing the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, the Knights of Malta, in Poland in 1610, and later in the United States. The Kennedy family, hospice movement, and drug connections. The Kennedy family's connection to the Knights of Malta extends to the hospice movement. The Kennedy Institute for the Study of Human Reproduction and Bioethics, based at Georgetown University, has helped fund the Knights of Malta's hospice initiatives in the United States. In October 1978, at the inaugural meeting of the National Hospice Organization, Senator Edward Kennedy served as a keynote speaker. The hospice movement, led by the Knights of Malta, promotes the concept of the right to die. Historically, the Knights of Malta have been involved in administering mind-altering drugs under the guise of medical treatment. For instance, their St. Christopher's Hospital in London used a concoction known as Brompton mixture, a blend of heroin, cocaine, alcohol, tranquilizers, and chloroform water, administered every 3 hours until patients died. While the hospice movement may appear compassionate, its underlying philosophy mirrors that of Adolf Hitler, who viewed euthanasia as a means to eliminate undesirable individuals. This perspective raises serious concerns about the movement's true intentions and potential outcomes. Drug issues have also plagued the Kennedy family. Ted Kennedy's daughter, Cara, struggled with substance abuse and spent time in a halfway house. Several of Bobby Kennedy's children were arrested for drug-related offenses, while Joan Kennedy battled alcoholism. Both David Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suffered from severe drug addictions despite undergoing multiple detoxification treatments. Tragically, David Kennedy overdosed on cocaine and died in 1984. Patricia Kennedy Lawford's husband also struggled with drug and alcohol dependency. Drug use among the elite is not a new phenomenon. Prominent families such as the Rothschilds, Winston Churchill, and even the British royal family have long been associated with cocaine, heroin, and opium use. Queen Victoria, often perceived as a paragon of virtue, regularly indulged in these substances during gatherings at Balmoral, her summer residence. The occult power of the Kennedy bloodline. This revisit to the Kennedys highlights their ties to other elements of the Illuminati's vast and intricate schemes. Until people recognize the occult power wielded by the Kennedys through their bloodline, they will fail to grasp why the Queen of England and her family would honor a request from an Irish commoner to appear in full regalia for the pleasure of this commoner's family. Winston Churchill's connections to figures such as Billy Graham, Joe Kennedy, and Aristotle Onassis have been well documented. Churchill, an active Freemason and a member of the Druidic Albion Lodge, demonstrated his affiliations with occult and elite organizations. A notable moment in his life was his induction into the Albion Lodge of the Ancient Order of Druids at Blenheim on August 15, 1908. Follow up on the Kennedy family. Recent events have brought renewed attention to the Kennedys. Following the death of JFK's widow, Jacqueline, his mother, Rose, has also passed away. In light of this, a recently published and meticulously researched book, A Question of Character, A Life of John F. Kennedy by Thomas C. Reeves, has shed light on the truth about JFK and the Kennedy family. The book dismantles the propaganda, media hype, and fabrications, presenting a candid view of JFK's life and legacy. The book reveals that JFK, far from the public image of brilliance, had an IQ of only about 119, struggled academically, and faced significant challenges with spelling. Despite these limitations, his father's wealth and influence opened doors that would otherwise have been closed to him. JFK suffered from a severe back problem that nearly crippled him, yet his father secured him a position in the Navy during World War II. Medical examiners overlooked his condition, and he was commissioned as a naval officer without undergoing the usual rigorous training. As a naval officer, JFK's performance was subpar. The widely celebrated story of PT-109 has been romanticized. In reality, the incident occurred because Kennedy and his crew were negligent, possibly sleeping or hungover, allowing a Japanese destroyer to collide with their boat. Fearing a court-martial for his negligence, Kennedy's father turned the debacle into a tale of heroism, reshaping public perception. The foundations of the Kennedy dynasty. The book provides fascinating insights into JFK's family history. His grandfather, P.J. Kennedy, left grammar school early, but by 25, owned a saloon and liquor business. Later, he transitioned into banking and politics, building his success through corruption and electoral fraud. P.J.'s political victories often relied on hired men voting multiple times in his favor. Joe Kennedy, P.J.'s son, married Rose Fitzgerald, whose family, the Fitzgeralds, traced their lineage back to William the Conqueror's supporters. Rose's father, Honey Fitz, was infamous for graft, vote fraud, and an extramarital affair with a woman named Toodles. Despite this, Rose received her education at the Catholic Sacred Heart Convent, completing it just before her 20th birthday. Joe Kennedy had a controversial career marked by stock market manipulation and alleged involvement in smuggling liquor during Prohibition. He collaborated with influential figures like David Sarnoff and his Radio Corporation of America. Joe also had a notorious reputation for his sexual escapades, a trait his son JFK would inherit. The Kennedy family amassed significant wealth and owned luxurious properties, including a 15-room, 9-bathroom summer home in Hyannisport, Massachusetts, and a 6-bedroom Spanish-style winter home in Palm Beach, Florida. Rose Kennedy, described as self-centered, stingy, prudish, and often spiteful, was known among her household staff as Madame. JFK's childhood and family dynamics. Rather than being the ideal mother portrayed to the American public, Rose Kennedy was often absent. At the age of 5, JFK openly expressed his feelings, saying to her, "Gee, you're a great mother to go away and leave your children alone." As an adult, JFK confided to a friend, "My mother was either at some Paris fashion house or else on her knees in some church. She was never there when we really needed her. My mother never really held me and hugged me. Never. Never." His father's dismissive attitude toward Rose led JFK to remark, "My mother is a nothing." Growing up without maternal affection, JFK endured a strict and rigid household under his father, Joe Kennedy. Joe tolerated little nonsense and no disobedience. The Kennedy children were denied many comforts of ordinary childhood, such as having their own rooms to store personal belongings. When JFK occasionally invited friends over, they were often terrified by Joe's explosive temper and verbal tirades. The children were not allowed to express pain or seek comfort. If one of them was hurt and turned to Rose for sympathy, her response was, "On your feet. Now you know how to behave. Go out there and behave as you know you should." This extreme strictness raises questions about potential psychological or even darker influences. Joe Kennedy's decision to have his daughter Rosemary undergo a prefrontal lobotomy, effectively erasing her from the family's life, suggests a troubling story. Was Rosemary a victim of the same abuse reportedly experienced by many daughters in elite satanic families? Joe Kennedy's friendship with Felix Frankfurter, a figure connected to Charles T. Russell, adds another layer of intrigue to these suspicions. JFK's hidden struggles and public persona. Throughout his life, JFK managed to conceal several personal vulnerabilities, such as his dependence on glasses and his intense chronic back pain. Despite his charm and charisma, JFK struggled with emotional depth and was incapable of meaningful, self-revealing conversations. His relationships remained superficial, and while he was skilled at seducing women and maintaining friendships, he lacked the ability to truly love or connect with others. Reeves notes that JFK's difficulties stemmed in part from a childhood marked by loneliness and his parents' selfish, insensitive behavior. However, some accounts suggest these issues may have been rooted in more profound trauma, possibly involving ritualistic abuse. JFK's detachment extended to family matters. He was not even informed of his brother Teddy's birth until he returned from boarding school and discovered he had a new sibling. JFK's achievements were often overshadowed by his father's influence, which ensured he could evade serious consequences for his shortcomings. One friend remarked, "With Jack, nobody really admired what he did or respected what he did, but they liked his personality. When he flashed his smile, he could charm a bird off a tree." At the age of 17, JFK's escapades included a visit to a brothel in Harlem, later humorously nicknaming his sexual organ JJ. JFK's education and literary endeavors. JFK's academic record was inconsistent. Although officially enrolled at the London School of Economics for a year, he attended for only a month and did no significant academic work. His father's choice of this prestigious institution reflects an attempt to align JFK with the elite circles frequented by the world's powerful families. JFK's book, Why England Slept, provides another example of how his father's influence shaped his public image. Henry Luce, a close friend of Joe Kennedy and the head of Time Life, ensured favorable publicity for the book. Meanwhile, Joe purchased 30,000 to 40,000 copies, storing them in the attic and basement of their Hyannisport home to artificially boost sales and secure JFK's position as a best-selling author. JFK and Illuminati Connections in California. In 1940, during a trip to California, JFK stayed at the coastal castle of William Randolph Hearst, a notable Illuminati figure. Hearst would later support Kennedy's political career. For example, during one of Kennedy's campaigns, Hearst's Boston American refused to accept paid political advertisements from Kennedy's opponent. After World War II, Joe Kennedy worked for the FBI. JFK's favorite sister, Kathleen, married William Harrington, whose father was the 10th Duke of Devonshire, a prominent figure in the Church of England and a high-ranking Freemason. Despite her marriage, Kathleen had an affair with aristocrat Peter Milton, Lord Fitzwilliam. Following the death of Joe Jr., Joe Kennedy Sr. began grooming JFK to become president. After being elected to the House of Representatives, JFK's closest congressional allies were Richard Russell, Spessard Holland, and Robert A. Taft. Notably, Russell and Taft came from prominent Illuminati families. The Taft and Russell bloodlines have even intermarried, further solidifying their influence within the elite networks. The role of critical thinking in understanding conspiracies. The truth about the forces controlling this nation often seems outlandish to those accustomed to the narratives provided by a controlled media. Disinformation about the elite who govern America has made it challenging to expose the full extent of their power. If Americans were more critical thinkers, willing to question the propaganda disseminated by the press, the false personas and fabricated histories of their leaders might crumble under scrutiny. Unfortunately, while there are many intelligent individuals, the number of true critical thinkers remains limited. A conspiracy of enormous magnitude has gripped this nation since its founding, and the media's complicity has successfully hidden this reality from the public. The Kennedy family, including JFK, has played a role in this grand conspiracy. JFK ultimately sacrificed his life for it. JFK's assassination as a gateway to awareness. The assassination of JFK provides a compelling entry point for Americans to uncover the broader conspiracy. Ralph Epperson, a lecturer on the New World Order, NWO, often uses the Kennedy assassination in his presentations to introduce audiences to the existence of this global plot. Epperson once unknowingly collaborated with an active monarch mind-controlled slave who assisted him in his presentations. The Monarch program, designed to create undetectable mind-controlled individuals, represents one of the more insidious facets of the NWO. These slaves are extraordinarily difficult to identify, especially since most people remain unaware of their existence. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in our next video.